A multi-million-dollar skilled trades project in the works.
If there is one thing that can derail the speed of Detroit's recovery, it's the cost of construction.
You'll hear how the center could grow the city's workforce and how it connects to the work Stephen Henderson is doing in the surrounding neighborhood at the house he grew up in. Plus, journalist Anna Clark on her award-winning book about the Flint Water Crisis. A commentary on what we should really focus on when it comes to the Detroit Charter Commission. And lives changed while making unique jewelry. We'll take you to Rebel Nell. I'm Christy McDonald. One Detroit is coming up.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV. The Detroit Journalism Engagement Fund, and by
Business Leaders for Michigan has 5 priorities to make Michigan a top 10 state. Achieve a balanced budget, cut long-term debt, fix our roads, improve all levels of education, further economic growth, plan for a stronger Michigan. How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television.
For nearly 100 years, Ally has been a part of Detroit, and we give back by volunteering and donating in our community. We have a commitment to diversity and increasing economic mobility in our hometown. At Ally, we're dedicated to doing it right every single day.
and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi and welcome to One Detroit. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks for joining me at the Town Hall Cafe. We're devoting this show to stories that show deliberate and personal investment in people's futures. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at a major announcement for a new skilled trades training center to be built on the city's west side. You'll see why it connects with a very personal project that Stephen Henderson is working on. Plus, author and journalist Anna Clark on her book about the Flint Water Crisis. This spring marks 5 years since people first started complaining about the water there. Also coming up, a unique commentary on the job of the Detroit Charter Commission. And Rebel Nell jewelry, made in Detroit. It's uniquely beautiful, but so are the stories of the people who make it. That is all coming up for you on One Detroit. And we're starting with the new Skilled Trades Training Center to be built on Detroit's west side. It's a project by the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters and Millwrights, and it will provide free training for up to 1,500 students a year. It's a $30 million project on 7 acres of city-owned land near Oakland Boulevard. And it happens to be steps away from Stephen Henderson's old childhood home on Tuxedo Street. He's transformed the house into a literary center and a meeting place for the neighborhood. It's called the Tuxedo Project. And we first showed you Stephen's plans when he started out rehabbing the house, which opened up in the fall of 2017. Since the Tuxedo Project has been working to help other blighted homes in the neighborhood, it's been an anchor for positive momentum on that side of the city. Stephen was part of the announcement, which is a big step toward training more Detroit workers for construction jobs that are open.
Yeah, what year did you move in?
I moved in 1972.
Okay, well, so that's right after I was born. Yeah, talk about what the neighborhood was like in the 1970s.
When I first moved over there, the neighborhood was fantastic. Every home was filled, every lot was clean, no vacancies, and each house on the block was full with people and kids.
Yeah, and there were so many families, that's what I remember. There were lots and lots of kids running up and down the streets all the time.
So when they school would paper all in my yard and everything. But once they closed that school down, all that deceased and people started moving out like flies. Yeah. But I stuck around. I'm still there.
Jackie Henderson isn't a relative of mine, but she is the president of the Community Association over near the Tuxedo Project. She remembers Tappan Middle School really well. She remembers when it closed a couple of decades ago and when they tore it down about 10 years ago. She's really excited about the prospect of the training center rising on that fallow site. I found out about this a while back, about the possibility of this, and said to myself instantly, my gosh, if this happens, everything in our neighborhood will change. Everything will be different.
Michigan Regional Carpenters Council, we're providing these opportunities especially for this community, because we're about to be your neighbors. So you guys are going to have unlimited access to a facility that's going to train the next generation.
How involved is the city in this?
Oh, they've been extremely involved. I mean, there's been, like I say, it's been 2 years, and there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues that you have to work out. Infrastructure issues, what's underneath the ground. The apprenticeship fund is going to be paying to build this. The union has been paying for this process to make it so that we'll find out if we can build something there, right? So all the civil engineering and all that has already been done.
Mike Jackson worked with Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan to find a great location for this new training center. They settled on our neighborhood for a couple of reasons. One is its proximity to the freeway. I-96, the Jeffries, runs right along the side of this property. We're also very close to the intersection of Livernois and Grand River. We still deal with a lot of blight around the Tuxedo project.
We've been, filing petitions, to get them toward that. But other than that, the street is quiet and it's good. It's real good.
Greg Motley lives across the street from the Tuxedo project. On our block alone, there are 14 vacant homes, and most of them probably need to come down. We're hoping that's more of a priority now that the training center is on the way.
This is a fantastic project that you communicated and started, rolling with the wheels going, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so happy and ecstatic that we're getting ready to have something done in our neighborhood.
I have a feeling she hugged you right after that.
There have been a lot of hugs lately.
I think it was really neat because this is the first time that we've actually on the show gone back inside and taken a look at inside the house.
Yeah.
Since it's done, and the fact that you're having meetings there and it's open to the community, and this is really part of a larger process that you've been working on, and then for this project to come in, it's connecting, I think, a lot of the dots for you.
It is. It's giving a boost to the things that we're already trying to do and sometimes being frustrated by, right? Like I said, there's 14 abandoned houses on that block, just on that one block. You talk about that combined with the challenges that our neighbors face on a daily basis, the food insecurity, problems with water. It's a lot, and the Literary and Community Arts Center is a way to bring people together, to try to build organization, to try to fight those things, but we've needed opportunity and we've needed investment, and this training center is both of those things right at the end of our block. We couldn't have dreamed up a bigger or better kind of way to lift what we're trying to do.
And so investment in the neighborhood, that was one of the things that, actually most of what the State of the City address was that the mayor gave, and talking about making sure that those investment projects are coming in different areas of the city.
Well, he talked about tearing down the obstacles to opportunity, and certainly one obstacle to opportunity is getting people to training programs. And if you have a training program and it's downtown or it's out somewhere people can't get to because there's transportation issues in the city, this brings a training center right into a neighborhood where people, if they had to, can walk to it. And I think this is a major commitment and a really good progress in trying to figure out, okay, we got all these programs, why aren't people participating, and breaking down the obstacles to participation.
It was 5 years ago this spring that people living in Flint started complaining about the quality of their water. In the aftermath of the Flint Water Crisis, Michigan journalist Anna Clark wrote a book called The Poison City: Flint's Water and the American Urban Tragedy. It's received numerous national awards and recognition. So here's a look at our interview with Anna as she talks about the timeline of what happened and the infrastructure concerns for all cities.
The narrative about the Flint Water Crisis often starts in April of 2014 when the switch literally happened. And I think, in fact, the story goes back a lot longer. What made the city vulnerable in the first place? What set the groundwork for this community being hungry for some kind of water relief. You know, they were paying, if not the most expensive water bills in the nation, among the most expensive water bills in the nation, and they're a disproportionately poor community. It was the water crisis before the water crisis, and the reasons for that, again, you know, go back into decades of strategic disinvestment and segregation, and just the abandonment of Flint and core cities like it all across this country. What happened was that there was a state-appointed emergency manager under which the decision was made to leave the Detroit water system, move to a new water system, and they decided in the interim they were going to use the Flint River as a drinking water source. They did get the Flint City Council to vote on the record that they wanted to join that new water source. That vote had no power behind it because of the emergency manager's authority. There's no record of them making any vote on the use of the Flint River, and in fact they are on record trying to get away from the Flint River and back to Detroit as the problems were accelerating. The piece that's like often misunderstood is that the local leadership in Flint did not have authority over their city throughout all the decisions that were pertinent in setting the groundwork for what became a citywide water disaster. Another is that the Flint River itself was the problem, that people remember how polluted it was, you know, at the height of industry, all those General Motors plants, residents too, you know, there was a larger city at the time, there was no water regulations up through the 70s, and that river, like a lot of urban waterways, bore terrible mistreatment. That's true, and there are still some challenges with the river today, but it is much better off than it has been in a very long time. But this is like a story, I think, of institutions, and I think a number of different investigative task forces, including the governor's own task force, has put the bulk of the responsibility on the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, because they have the responsibility for caring for the drinking water throughout the state. They had a particularly close role in Flint, sort of supervising these various switches, and the decision to not use corrosion control in Flint's drinking water, which resulted in the pipes getting corroded, is something that happened under their oversight.
The corrosion control Anna talks about was a critical factor in the crisis. It was lead seeping from pipes that supplied water to people, not necessarily the Flint River water itself, that compromised the health of its citizens.
Honestly, I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm shocked all over again. I think it's just one big shock. I think a few things that have shocked me is what the seriousness of lead is, you know? Like looking back at the history of lead, how it is one of the world's best known neurotoxins. It is a substance that is eminently useful in so many ways, has so many great uses. I wish it were not toxic to humans, because it would be great. It would be great. It's a great metal otherwise, but it is toxic to humans, and we've known this for thousands of years. But really, we are going to be exposed to it, some people more than others, some places more than others, but it's everywhere. And until we develop the political will to deal with it, it's going to be causing us problems. And in Flint, it got to, you know, unusually dramatic proportions, but it's not just Flint's problem. Why did this city with so many financial challenges go into debt beyond debt, you know, to fund a new water system that duplicated a service it already had, that is drinking water from Lake Huron? And it was going to have to treat the water itself and go through a number of other complicated steps to do so. It just seems odd that these decisions were made, and I think it's like in a lot of ways it just seems irrational. We're just saying that this needs to be taken seriously, and that there were like man-made decisions that happened that set this up.
You may have seen some news reports recently about the Detroit Charter Commission, specifically the yelling that's gone on at a few of its meetings. Well, Latoya Morgan, who works with community development organizations with the city, goes to these meetings. And she told us, hey, you know, the media isn't concentrating on the right things when it comes to the Charter Commission. So we gave her a chance to explain in this One Detroit commentary.
The next, we will have the treasurer.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
there was a motion on the table by Commissioner Underwood.
I never heard that motion.
Point of order, there was no such motion.
But you hear Commissioner Mack's motion.
The Detroit Charter Commission, what do you know about that? Mostly what's discussed about it in the news is about the noise, not the substance.
Yes, it was.
I've been to most of the meetings, and what I hear are the voices of civically engaged Detroit residents demanding accountability and adherence to process from their elected officials. What I'm hearing is the democratic process at work. The same thing you might hear in the suburbs or anywhere else in this country. Like Sterling Heights.
You're yelling at him and you're interrupting him.
Or Ann Arbor. Or up in the Thumb.
I ain't worried about you and I ain't worried about nobody else here.
Resign or be removed.
All of this focus on commotion and personalities is disempowering. It implies that we Detroiters can't govern ourselves. Here's what the media should focus on. Effective leadership on the commission and the proper process for hiring, creating bylaws, and making the rules. One more thing. We risk alienating residents. Why would people want to come to a meeting that's constantly framed as dysfunctional? That doesn't help anything at all. I think there can be a path forward, but there needs to be strong leadership. We need a resident-focused charter commission process that empowers Detroiters. Otherwise, there's not an option for revision for 16 years.
And for a full story on exactly what the commission is and what it's working on now, we have that for you. Just head to DetroitPBS.org. And finally, you may have seen Rebel Nell jewelry for sale at the DIA or in Royal Oak or in Ann Arbor. It's made from graffiti and by the hands of women who are changing their lives. Take a look at how Rebel Nell's founders have made the deliberate decisions on how they run their business with this story from Detroit Performs.
One of our number one rules at Rebel Nell is that you never fall in love with the top layer. It's really what's underneath that's important.
Graffiti is just painted over, painted over, and you have these layers, and everyone has these layers, and once you peel them back, you see different sides of people, different backgrounds, different things that they've been through.
Whoever touched it had her own mind and train of thought when she put it together, so each piece is uniquely different, and I think that's our style.
Rebel Nell started in around March of 2013. Where I was living in Detroit was right next door to COTS. COTS is an amazing organization here in the city, which is abbreviated for the Coalition on Temporary Shelter. It's a women and family only shelter. And I would have conversations with the women, and I learned that these are incredible women who so often left challenging situations in search of a better opportunity, even if it meant going to the shelter. And this was my sort of like aha moment, and I asked my business partner at the time, I said, what if we could provide all the wraparound services, sort of a teach a woman to fish concept? And then what if we could come up with a product that we could employ them, that we could sell, that would then provide all the wraparound services? And then really the concept for Rebel Nell was born then. My business partner and I, Diana, we both had some jewelry making background, and so we thought, what if we could create some Detroit-centric jewelry that would, really pay tribute to the city that we live in, and also, become something cool to wear. And then it wasn't until a run on the DeQuinder Cut when I saw some graffiti on the ground, and that was the light bulb moment for the jewelry.
With every piece of jewelry I create, I put love, energy, affection.
The evolution of Rebel Nell is so much credit is with the actual design team and taking their thoughts and considerations into how we've changed or evolved our process. They're really to be credited for the quality that it is today.
You actually have creative control. So you can choose your piece of graffiti, and it's all about the person who's making it because each one is different and it's based on our personality.
We start off with a metal sheet and we draw our shapes on it. After we cut that out, we put our graffiti on. And that's another part that I'm not able to say, that how we get that graffiti to pop so beautiful, but we get it on there as pretty as we can get, and then we actually cut, shape, glue, bind. Then after we get all that part processed, we put this resin on it, which makes it shine. Then we sand our edges, clip our piece, make the back, polish it, pop it, and then we drill this hole in it to put the chains on or do our earrings. We do French hook earrings, post-strap earrings, which is one with the ball, and they also dangle. These signature pendants, this is a large piece. We have medium pieces, and then we have really small pieces.
You're wearing a piece of Detroit. There's a piece of history that we've done a great job of being able to encapsulate and preserve. And you know, most of the time it's on silver or brass, depending on, you know, your price point, your interest. But you know, you certainly will have a piece that will last you, that you could pass down for generations to come and share in that piece of Detroit. My true mission of why we do Rebel Now is to provide a transitional opportunity for the women that we hire. We are looking for women who have a desire to change their situation, can work well with others, and a willingness to learn. One of the things I've learned about, you know, running Rebel Now and interacting with all of our incredible employees is just, you know, how broken the system really is. And especially the challenges if you're, you know, a single mother in trying to maintain a job, right? And you don't have that support system.
I ended up at COTS because unemployment said they overpaid me $4,500. They garnished me for all of my income taxes, including the unemployment which I was receiving, which led to my homelessness.
Brenda is a blessing for this planet. There's nobody who has had a more optimistic and positive attitude, even when life hands her a lot of challenges. And we've experienced quite a few of those with her. And just to see her put on that face of perseverance.
Sometimes just the thought of where I come from and to where I'm going could bring a tear to my eye, but it's a positive tear.
Michelle, she is the little spark plug that we have here at Rebel. She's hilarious. She's gonna go very far. This is just a stepping stone for her.
I seriously am a lot better now than I was.
We have this T program, which is to teach, educate, and achieve. I didn't consider about credit scores, fixing my accounts, what kind of accounts I could have, secured loans, and all those kind of things were taught to me through the T program. I'll be working on home ownership, which is another thing that the T program, working here just opened my eyes to a lot, so I'll be a homeowner really soon.
They really helped me become more self-sufficient and lead me on the correct path and stay on it. This is more like a family setting more than anything, and that's why I love it here.
We also think that the women we employ are really rebelling against what life's dealt to them, and we're dealing with graffiti, which is rebellious in and of itself. And we also wanted to pay tribute to a woman who was a trailblazer before us, Eleanor Roosevelt, and everything she stood for. Her nickname that her dad gave her was Little Nell. We think she is certainly worthy of a stronger nickname, and that's how we came up with Rebel Nell.
Everybody who does graffiti all throughout the city of Detroit, before they had these projects, was considered rebels. People do look at me who went through homelessness, oh, she was rebellious, she didn't follow the rules, she didn't do what she was supposed to do to get there. So when I get that graffiti, I get to change it into something awesome that you never knew somebody that was a rebel could do something so great.
And that'll do it for One Detroit. We'll be back next Thursday. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much to the Town Hall Cafe for having us. We'll see you next time. Take care.